Okay, I think we can get going. So again, thank you for joining us wherever you are in the world today. So my name is Chris Rogers. I'm a senior technology evangelist here at Zerto, a HPE company. So with me is David Paquette, who I'll let introduce himself in a second. Just a quick little bit of housekeeping. There will be a recording of this available and sent out to you afterwards. There is a QA box at the top, so please, if you do have any questions or comments throughout, please use the QA function, and we'll have time for questions at the end, I'm sure, as well. So yeah, I'm going to hand over to David and let him introduce ourselves before we get through the content.
Hi, thank you, Chris. My name is David Paquette. I am a product marketing manager here at Zerto. And, Chris and I today are just going to tell you what's new in, the last few months within the HPE in terms of our data protection solutions. So I'm going to give it back to Chris and let him take it away.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'm going to start with one new thing is more of an announcement, right? Rather than what's in the product right now. So if you were at HPE Discover last week, you would have heard this already. If not, then it may have gone a little bit under the radar for you. So, David, can we start the first slide, please? So hopefully, big cheer in the room. So Zerto is announcing future support for KVM as the underlying hypervisor. So currently we support VMware and Hyper-V as on-premises hypervisors, as well as the most popular public clouds, Azure, AWS, and also the VMware flavors on public cloud as well. So we'll be adding this as an additional capability. So the targeted release date of this is the end of the year, so end of 2024. And it should be all the things that you know and love from Zerto, but just for KVM. Obviously, we've seen a massive shift in the hypervisor market really recently. I probably don't need to tell anybody on the call what that's been. But we've seen a lot from our customers and a response from the market in terms of they're uneasy about where their future lie, looking at alternatives, and just really trying to broaden their scopes. The great thing about the VMware ecosystem is it was vast, and we did have great tools such as Zerto to help support your disaster recovery, multi-cloud mobility, and ransomware resilience needs. We're now bringing all of that across to KVM. So people do have that choice of hypervisor. They can move away from VMware or Hyper-V or run a split strategy if they wish. So this is going to be CDP based. So we'll be the first and only continuous data protection provider for KVM, which I think is super exciting. All the the details and everything else will come out further as we develop and give you guys more information. But this got announced as I mentioned last week at HPE Discover. I'm super excited for it. I can't wait for it to come. I think it's going to unlock so many different use cases and opportunities for our customers and our prospects and our partner base as well. So as I mentioned, all the things you'd expect from Zerto. So those RPOs of seconds, RTOs of minutes that we're famous for in the industry, full automation, full orchestration of those workloads as well, and also then the protection and migration to, from, and between hypervisors, clouds, etc. So hopefully that unlocks some options for people. Hopefully starts to spark some ideas and maybe what is possible. And hopefully gets people excited that the future can be with Zerto on alternative platforms as well as VMware and the ones we currently support today. I'm sure there's going to be some questions. I'm sure people have loads of questions on this. So I'll answer them as best I can. We'll probably do questions at the end just so we make sure we have time for the content we do have, which I'm sure we will have time at the end for questions. So yeah, I'm really excited for it. More details are going to be released as we get through the year, and as more becomes clear, and we'll drip feed all that information to you guys to keep you on the edge of your seats. But yeah, hopefully everyone's excited, or as excited as I am. And if you haven't heard it before, you heard it here first. KVM will be supported hypervisor for Zerto towards the end of this year. So David, should we move on to the next slide? Perfect. So a hot topic is cybersecurity, cyber resilience. We've all seen it. We all know about it. I do a lot of speaking engagements, a lot of thought leadership, a lot of talking to customers, partners, prospects, etc. And very rarely does a conversation ever not go towards ransomware. Very quickly, we start talking about disaster recovery or multi-cloud mobility, and then the ransomware conversation normally pipes up, normally dominates the conversation for the rest of the time we have. But it's an area that people are concerned about. It's an area that people are investing heavily in. So we've made some updates to our Zerto Cyber Resilience Vault. So inside of the Cyber Resilience Vault, we have two HPE Alletra arrays. We've now updated that to make sure they are HPE Alletra Storage MP arrays. So if you're not from that world, or what does that give you? Well, it's the latest version of the HPE storage family. It provides more secure data immutability. So that essentially means that we can now operate with compliance mode, which gives us just that extra layer on top of what we had before. So compliance mode essentially means that no one can ever remove that data. Once it's been landed on those arrays and the immutable snap has been taken, no one can remove it. Not even HP support. Not even Antonio Neri himself. If you phoned him up, even he can't remove the locks that's on that data. That gives us that massive extra layer of security and compliance mode, as I mentioned. So knowing your data is as safe as it possibly can be when it's stored in the Zerto Cyber Resilience Vault. The HPE Alletra Storage MP also comes with 100% data availability guarantee. So inside of the landing zone, when we're landing that data on that, because it is able to talk back to GreenLake and able to push that telemetry back to us, we do have that 100% data availability guarantee. So you'll never be without your data on the landing zone because we're guaranteeing it for you. We're giving you that 100% availability guarantee for that data. I think it's super exciting, moving towards the latest platforms, constantly innovating and making sure that we have that that best in breed technology inside of the best in breed cyber resilience vault is important. So hopefully if anyone's got any questions on that, again, please place them in the Q&A. And then we'll move on to the next slide if possible, David. So another slightly different topic we're going to be talking about now is GreenLake for disaster recovery. So if anyone doesn't know, may not have come across GreenLake for disaster recovery before, it is essentially a service inside of HPE GreenLake, inside of the Edge to Cloud platform that you can enable, which enables you to have disaster recovery inside of HPE GreenLake, hence the name HPE GreenLake for disaster recovery. It is powered by Zerto under the hood. So it has the the Zerto DNA, if you will, of those super low RPOs, super low RTOs, but you interface through GreenLake for it. So everything looks and feels like GreenLake. So if you are used to building out storage arrays and doing whatever else you need to do inside of the GreenLake platform, it's going to feel really familiar to you. Simple to use, one easy interface. All those security features are inside of the GreenLake platform already. One common API, so if you have teams of developers or automation suites that you want to take advantage of, it's really easy to be able to then automate all of the workloads that you need, plus now GreenLake for disaster recovery. So we've now enabled GreenLake for disaster recovery to protect Microsoft Azure cloud services. So that can be protected from on-premises to Azure and then between Azure regions as well. So that gives our customers, enhanced resilience, that rapid recovery and minimal downtime that the Zerto is known for, and now not just for on-premise hypervisors, but also now for public cloud. It's giving organizations, cost-effective failover, full failback cyber recovery features as well when replicating from on-premise into Microsoft Azure. And it's now, simplifying how we can utilize public cloud within this hybrid operating model. We know that the hybrid cloud is now kind of the de facto choice for most organizations and how they're going to be running workloads. Whether that's by design or by accident is to be seen. But most organizations are going to be utilizing one or more clouds, whether that is on premises, public cloud, private, etc. They're going to be utilizing data across those. And if we can have a single space to be able to manage our data, manage our replication, manage our failovers, failbacks, etc., that's going to help with simplicity, help with efficiencies, and help with protection overall. Because it's not going to be a labor of having to go out to a different UI or going out to a different tool completely or learning a different tool. It's all going to be very natural, very easy to understand, and the same place you're configuring storage arrays or even provisioning virtual machines from Private Cloud Business Edition in Azure, for instance, you can then flick to a slightly different tile inside the same UI and now protect those workloads from inside of GreenLake itself. So that's my section done for the time being. I'm going to hand over to David to carry on from here. We'll do all questions at the end, and we'll try and answer as many as we can when we get there. But if you think of anything more on any of the content that we've done, again, pop them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. So over to you, David.
All right, thank you, Chris. Yes, please put your questions in. We will have plenty of time after the end of this presentation to answer those. So put any questions you have in. Now I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about another public cloud offering, and that is AWS. Now we had previously announced this same level of VM level consistency for replicating on Azure, and now we're offering it on AWS as well. And what this means is that we have the ability to make a consistent checkpoint for virtual machines that have multiple disks within AWS. And I think it was either last quarter or the quarter before we had announced the same feature for Azure. And like with that feature, we had to work closely on Azure with Microsoft, but here on AWS, we had to work closely with AWS to get this implemented because changes were required on their side to enable this. If you're familiar with the snapshot technologies, which we're using on both of these platforms in order to create these checkpoints, you may be familiar in the past, I certainly am from working on other data protection solutions, that if you try to take multiple snapshots across different volumes or virtual machines, it was very difficult to try to get those in that consistent state because it really just, the mechanism was not really designed to do that. It was sort of just try to do a best effort to take all those snapshots at the same time. So we really had to work with those organizations to get where we are now, which is where we can actually create all of those snapshots from a single point in time for a consistent recovery checkpoint. Now, this is, also we've implemented this in such a way using new APIs that AWS has provided in order to also improve the performance of the replication process going from AWS. So it's sort of a double benefit here, not only having that consistency, but actually improving the performance metrics of that replication process. So this is going to apply to all replication, either going within AWS or from AWS, either back to on-premises or to another platform, such as Azure, or even a VMware on another cloud. So that is something that we're excited to share. Since we had previously been able to do this on Azure, now we can also do it on AWS. And that gives us consistency for those multi-disk virtual machines across all the platforms. All right, also on AWS, we have released a migration utility. And this is for those folks who have been using AWS with Zerto in the past, and we have recently updated our architecture. I believe we announced this in the last quarter, updating our architecture within AWS to support, instead of using multiple Zerto cloud appliances to handle the replication load, using a single Zerto cloud appliance with multiple virtual replication appliances. And that makes it much simpler to manage as well as easier to scale out. But we needed a process in place to move from those old Windows-based Zerto cloud appliances to our new Linux-based Zerto cloud appliances in this new architecture. And so this migration utility is for those people who are running those older Windows-based ZCA appliances to convert them over to the new Linux-based ZCA appliance. Now, similarly, what we've done on Azure is we've released a new transition process for consolidating those ZCAs, the ones on Azure, very almost identical to the ones on AWS, but obviously built for the different cloud platforms. But in this case, what we're doing here is consolidating those multiple ZCAs that you had been running previously into those virtual replication appliances. And what this does is it eliminates those redundant Zerto cloud appliances and replaces them with virtual replication appliances. And from that point on, those are going to be auto deployed from that single Zerto cloud appliance. But what this is really allowing you to do is not just convert from that architecture, but also be able to give you the seamless protection of building up a history on the new Zerto cloud appliance and those virtual replication VRAs, virtual replication appliances. Build up a journal history on those, protecting that data prior to cutting off the previous Zerto cloud appliances. So you don't have to have an interruption in your journal protection going back as many days as you have it configured for. You can have those running simultaneously so you can maintain the same level of protection throughout this transition process. So again, this is because we did the same architecture change both in Microsoft Azure as we did in AWS, moving to the single Zerto cloud appliance with multiple VRAs, then we needed a better process for helping transition between those. So this is a new transition process, a consolidation tool that's available to help manage that process of transitioning and doing it without interrupting protection. All right, let's switch. No, I'm sorry, I'm going to stay with Azure for a second. One of the other great features that we just added, and maybe this is, if you're familiar with Azure, you know that they have the ability to implement these resource groups. And a resource group is similar to our virtual protection group. It's just a logical grouping of resources within Azure. And what it does is it helps you do things like, limit the ability to subscribe to certain resources to within logical groups. It can help prevent oversubscription of services within those groups. It also can just help segment the different user accounts and the resources that they're consuming within a larger organization. But prior to this change, we did not have the ability to allow you to specify existing resource groups when you were doing certain actions, one of which was deploying a new ZCA appliance. So we've updated that. So when you are deploying one of these appliances, you can do that into an existing resource group. And then also at the same time, when you are recovering a virtual machine from, or a group of virtual machines within a virtual protection group into Azure, you can set up a specific existing resource group in the recovery setup so that those virtual machines within that virtual protection group are recovered into that resource group. So just making it a little more flexible to use the resource groups that you already have in place, particularly allowing you to configure those resource groups as you would want to for recovery prior to even setting up protection. All right, I think this is the last new update we have for this quarter, but this is a update designed for environments that have multiple sites where multiple Zerto Virtual Manager appliances are needed to be deployed. So for larger organizations in particular that have multiple sites that are being protected, they have to deploy a Zerto Virtual Manager to each of those sites. And in order to help facilitate that, we made it possible to do that deployment and configuration completely from the command line. So what this means is that you can configure all of those settings that you want to have for the Zerto virtual managers, customize them as you will prior to deployment, so that as you deploy them to the multiple sites, they can already be configured with the settings you have chosen. So we have customers now who are running, dozens of different sites where they're either protecting or protecting to. And so this allows them to deploy all those Zerto virtual managers with the configuration that they desire at those sites from the command line, and the ability to automate that using that command line interface. And so this is really just giving more flexibility and more speed of deployment, because of the fact that you can customize those at a higher rate without having to deploy them in a more of a vanilla state and then having to change the configuration once they're deployed. So this is another just powerful tool to help with those larger multi-site configurations. All right, so we're going to get into some questions here, but just before we do, I just wanted to remind you that there are plenty of ways that you can find out more and see some of these updates in person, one of which is always our hands-on labs. You can also, of course, request a demo if you're interested in any of these new features, whether they be with GreenLake for disaster recovery or with Zerto or the Zerto Cyber Resilience Vault. We can meet with you and give you any information you need on any of those. And then, of course, you can request a free trial. And we have plenty of information out there about all these new features within our website. And just wanted to give you those resources before we move into the questions. So let's go ahead and tackle the questions, Chris.
Perfect. So yeah, some great questions coming in. So please pop your questions in. We'll do some, obviously the ones we've got already, but please pop any questions you have in the chat or in the QA now. I'll monitor both in case something get translated wrong. So the first question we've got is, will the KVM installation also be able to do ransomware detection like the VMware does today? I'll take this one. The honest answer is I don't know. I can find out. I think it's probably a bit early in the day to know the exact feature set that's going to be coming on day one. But yeah, it's going to be hard to exactly what I said. Give the full feature list. I don't know yet. I haven't seen the full roadmap, and all our developers are obviously busy working, getting all that built right now. So the answer is I don't know right now. More details will come. So keep your eyes peeled. On socials and LinkedIn, etc., and the website. As soon as we have more details, we'll share it. And I'm sure at the next one of these in Q3, we will have some more updates and some more bits and pieces to share on the KVM thing as well. So unfortunately, I can't give you much more detail right now because I don't know myself. But yeah, as soon as we know more, we will let everyone know. Right, second question is, in the Cyber Resilience Vault, is it limited to using Alletra, or can we use other appliances like StoreOnce or any other storage? David, do you want to take that one, or do you want me to handle it?
Oh, yeah, sure. No, I'll take that. Is it limited to Alletra? Yes, it is limited to Alletra storage, and the reason for that is because we need to have identical storage environments on both sides. Well, that's one of the reasons is we need to have identical storage environments on both sides, because of the way that the vault is architected in order to create a clean room recovery environment within the vault section of the vault zone of the vault. And then you could argue, well, maybe it doesn't have to be Alletra, but we are using specific capabilities built into the Alletra storage. As Chris was mentioning, updating it with the storage MP, we are utilizing the immutability features as well as the replication features within that Alletra storage, specifically to create the highest level of security that we can provide within the vault, so that we can manage it from the vault zone and ensure that the data is, as isolated as possible within that vault zone. And that is the reason why we require the Alletra rather than other storage devices within that vault zone. And we also, one of the other features which we like to promote is that we do want to have it running on that production grade storage, so that when you do recover it into that vault zone, you are able to run as a production environment with whatever applications you want to recover within that vault zone.
Yeah, great work. And yeah, one thing I would add to that as well, it's also been like verified, tested, hardened, etc. Right? This isn't just something we just put together with a bag of bits in it, right? This is something we've designed and architected with a particular use case in mind. So as Dave mentioned, the specific feature sets, the specific security protocols, how we've managed to harden the solution, and also then supportability moving forward as well, right? You've got one single vendor you come to. It's a purpose-built design solution that you've purchased from one vendor. You've got all that support, all that things when something does go wrong, in the in the face of a ransomware attack, we know what we're looking at, we know exactly what the config should be, etc. It also comes when you purchase with professional services to make sure it's installed properly, installed and configured to the right levels and the right standards. So that's all these reasons is why we bundle it as a single solution, single appliance, if you will, that goes out the door to our customers with the full package, the full kit, everything ready to go, because it is essentially a single unit solution. Right,
Yeah,
one more
great.
question. Oh, sorry, David. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that was a great answer. Thank you.
No, perfect.
We would have another question in the actual Q&A here, which was, can Zerto work completely with Azure Stack HCI and also have the capability of ransomware detection with the VMware option? So we are seeing a higher number of requests for the solution in our region, especially versus Nutanix. So specifically targeting the Azure Stack HCI.
Yeah, hasn't been announced that we'll support Azure Stack HCI at the moment. We support Azure Native, so the public cloud, also the VMware on Azure offering, we fully support as well. But Azure Stack HCI is not currently on our supported list. Again, I don't know the roadmap, haven't seen the roadmap for long term use, so I can't give you any further information on if it is coming or when it would be coming, if it is. So unfortunately, at the moment, the answer is technically no. I think that is all the questions we have in the chat. So I'll give it a couple more minutes. If anyone has got anything that's lingering, or anything that me and David have said, or even you want to post a comment about something we may have covered in previous webinars, or something you're not sure about that wasn't in today's webinar, feel free to post now. We have a few more minutes that we can run to. If not, I'll give it a couple more minutes, and if not, we'll end. And we just literally have one pop in now. So we are using Zerto from CDP from prod to DR and DR to prod on-prem. We license for a certain number of VMs. Is it just a matter of installing ZVMAs at the other vCenter at the other sites to create additional pairs? Or how does licensing work with multiple sites? So yes, 100%. So you install your Zerto Virtual Manager appliances, hopefully by code now. And now, as David just announced, that we can do that via the CLI. You won't have to do it manually anymore. So deploy as many ZVMAs as you like. And essentially, as long as you don't go over the amount of VMs that are being replicated, your license will support multiple pairings of sites. So there's no actual maximum number of pairings you can have on the license itself. So you can pair to as many sites as you like, as long as the number of source VMs you're replicating doesn't go over your license count. You're absolutely free to replicate them wherever you need. The reason I say source VMs be replicating as well is because we have a technology called one-to-many, which lets you replicate a single virtual machine to multiple places at the same time. And because we're super generous, that only costs you one VM, one license. Okay, so even if you're replicating one VM 3 different places, it only costs you one of your licensed virtual machines. So it's the amount of source VMs that you're replicating, no matter how many times it's being replicated to different sites. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Oh, one more.
You had another one come in.
Yeah. We got some good ones. Great, perfect. This is what we like to see. Are there any products that are supported by Zerto that detect ransomware? Well, Zerto has its own ransomware encryption detection built in. So in near real time, inline, we detect anomalous encryption activity on the blocks that are being replicated by Zerto. So we can then, stick our white flag up or our red flag and say, hey guys, we think something's looking wrong. Please go and do something. So that's going to give you the earliest warning signal that something is happening in the environment that maybe you don't want to be happening. This is all available via the API as well, so you could push that into a SIEM or a source system, get that to pull the information out, and then do whatever you need to do as part of your larger security framework, if you will. So maybe that's isolating from the network, maybe that's sending a ticket to a cyber team, whatever it may be. You can do that through there. So we have our own inbuilt, but equally, because we don't have any impact on workloads, you're free to run whatever scanning software you want on top of Zerto to protect your environment. So yeah, you're free to bring whatever scanning software you like into the vault with you as well. Yeah, anything you store on that landing zone Alletra array that we had earlier essentially gets copied into the vault. So if you had a virtual machine, for instance, that you wanted to that was CrowdStrike or SentinelOne or any of the other ones that are out there, the plethora of other scanning tools that are out there, you can then also recover that into the vault with its newest updates, because guess what, we're in the landing zone, you can go out and pull your updates down, replicate that over into the vault zone, bring it up at the point that you're bringing up the rest of the infrastructure in the vault zone to do testing, and then you can scan the data inside of the vault zone that way as well. So kind of we have our own, but if you want to bring your own as well, you can do that as well.
Right, and one of the benefits I wanted to mention here is that with Zerto, you can bring up those test recovery environments right in an isolated network, and then you
Yeah.
can run scanning against the data within those environments, where it's not going to affect production, right? Because AV scans, other types of malware scans, can have a production impact
Mm-hmm.
when you're scanning all the files within your production network. But if you want to bring up, a recovery environment from whatever checkpoint you want from the journal, and then run the scan with that environment, it can allow you to do those scans potentially more often than you would be able to do in production, because there would be zero impact to your production virtual machines when running those scans in our test recovery environments. And we can, as Chris was sort of getting at, we can not only do that within the vault in a couple different ways, but we can just do it outside of the vault architecture with standard Zerto test recovery.
Yeah, great point, David. Great point. Right, so I think we've got one more question, which I think I'll take this one. So,
Sure.
can you compare how Zerto on a three-tier architecture would create a HA environment versus a vSAN stretch cluster? So very specific question, but essentially, Zerto is not a HA tool. Zerto is a disaster recovery, ransomware resilience, or multi-cloud mobility tool. It doesn't create a HA environment. It creates a very, very close to HA, but it's not a HA tool. So on a vSAN stretch cluster, or any stretch storage cluster for that matter, essentially whatever is at site A automatically gets sent to site B, right? So good, bad, indifferent data. And you also have a penalty of a round trip time as well. So if you've got site A and site B, whatever gets written at site A has to get written at site B before site A acknowledgement can occur, right? So you get that little slowdown of every single, or I kind of call it like a little write penalty. Every time you do a write, you've got to wait for it to go across and back before you can carry on again. That's great if you want the systems just to seamlessly be able to move between sites. Great for geographical redundancy. Not so good when you have things like ransomware, data corruption, that type of thing. Because as soon as corruption happens on site A, you're immediately copying that to site B, which means in the event of a ransomware attack or data corruption, etc., you're going to have just two copies of bad data to try and solve rather than just one. With Zerto, we essentially have our journal, right? So even if you do have an issue or corruption, you can go back 5, 10, 15, 25 seconds, etc., all the way back to 30 days old if you want to, rewind that data to when before the impact happened or whatever issue you had happened, and resume operations from that point in time. So you can't do just a seamless, vMotion across to a new site, but we can get that VM up and running for you within a couple of minutes on the other site. So there's huge advantages to running Zerto over just a pure HA setup. And a lot of organizations will also run both because they want their HA to be HA and they want Zerto to do what Zerto does best, which is recover data rapidly with minimal RPO and minimal RTO as well. So hopefully that kind of explains your question a bit more. But But if you want to reach out for any, a bit more of a deep dive on that, I'm happy for you to contact me directly, or anyone on the call actually. My email address is chris.rogers, ROGERS, at hpe.com. You'll find me on LinkedIn as well. You'll be able to find me pretty easily on there. Feel free to reach out if you have any more questions, or you want a bit more detail on anything. But I think that's all the questions we've received today. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Any more questions that you have, feel free to reach out to any one of your team, HPE or Zerto, even in your local countries, and we'll route your inquiry to the best place. But thank you again for your time, and we hope to see you again on the next one. Thank you, David.
Yep, thank you, Chris.